In this week's episode, we are going to discuss an article that I actually read online recently that really put an interesting perspective and twist on how long we have left in our lives and a way to kind of frame it in your mind about how long you have left. For example, it's going to start off talking about, well, you got 40 years left, for example. Let's say you're in your mid 50s. Well, you should have 40 years left. Well, that sounds great. But then that's only 40 more summers or 40 more of this or whatever. It's really interesting. It really makes you think. That's what we're going to get into today on the show. Let's roll.
Welcome to the Safe Money Retirement Show with your host, certified financial fiduciary, Tim Wood. Tim is a retirement and income planning expert, best-selling author of Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success, member of the exclusive Ed Slott Master Elite IRA Advisor Group, and founder of SafeMoneyRetirement.com. Tim uses an education-first approach with clients nationwide to ensure they understand their choices in planning their own safe money retirement. Tim focuses on wealth management, retirement income, tax and long-term care planning, and asset protection and growth strategies. And now, from the Safe Money Retirement Studio in Johnson City, Tennessee, your host, Tim Wood.
Thank you for joining me this week. I'm Tim Wood, host of the Safe Money Retirement Show. I'm a certified financial fiduciary that specializes in asset and retirement protection and income planning. A lot of people don't want to talk about how many years do you have left. I mean, it's kind of a morbid subject. Not being here and not, we all have our own personal feelings about what happens when you're gone, but until you're gone, you don't really know, that kind of a thing. That, of course, is part of it. But this article that I read really made me think it from a different perspective. It was really interesting. So I kind of want to go through that and just pick part of that apart and then see how can that relate to you in retirement specifically. And how do these things relate to you in retirement and things that you need to absolutely make sure you're ready for? That's what we're going to get into today. But first, if you don't already have a copy of my book, Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success, what are you waiting for? We will send you a copy absolutely free with no charge and no obligation so you can start planning your own retirement by knowing what's available out there. Just give us a call. It's toll-free from anywhere in the United States, 1-800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233. Or just log on to our website at safemoneyretirement.com and request your free copy right now. All right, so let's jump into this article that I found. It literally starts off saying, you still have 40 years left, but ... So, 40 years, having 40 years left in your life, that sounds pretty good, right? And I'm just going to take bits and pieces of this article so you understand where I'm going with this. It goes down and says, but you only have 40 summers left in your life. Well, that's going to make you think. Just having 40 years left sounds pretty good. Having just 40 summers left? Having just 40 times to see the Cowboys play on Thanksgiving, 40 more Christmases, 40 more birthdays? That makes you think a little more. Maybe you only have 40 more chances in your life to feel the warmth of summer on your skin. Some people, that would be a big thing. 40 more times to see the leaves change in autumn. 40 more times to feel the chill of winter and the first rays of spring. Or maybe less. Maybe 10, maybe 5. Maybe this is the last time. And then it goes on to talk about we live our lives as if we were immortal. We postpone dreams and loves and passions and everything for later, but what if later never comes? What if this is the last morning you smelled the scent of coffee? Are you ready? It's the last day to tell someone you love them. It's not pessimistic. It's the brutal truth. Don't waste today. There might not be tomorrow. That's the really brief summary of this article. But it made me think, we really do live our lives as if we're going to have forever. As if, death is something that, let's not worry about that. That's one of the things that I have to deal with my clients on almost a daily basis because people don't want to think about it. No one wants to talk about life insurance. Nobody. Nobody wants to talk about what's going to happen with your estate when you're gone. Nobody wants to talk about making sure the beneficiaries are all taken care of as they should be taken care of when you're gone. But you need to. This is vital, absolutely vital, that what happens when you're gone is what you want to happen when you're gone. And we don't know how long we've got. There's people in their 30s right now today that are going to pass away instantly that had no clue it was even coming. That's going to happen. So making sure that you're ready all the time, and especially once you get up into your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, making sure you've got everything lined up, all your ducks in a row, everything, so you know what's going to happen. Do you want that grandkid to inherit a certain amount? Well, we've got to make sure that that's in place. Do you want to make sure that there's an income for your spouse when you're gone and that they're going to be able to make sure they can still pay their bills now, and even if inflation is higher 10, 20 years from now? Well, that's something we need to plan for. What's going to happen with Social Security when one of y'all are gone if you've got a spouse? There are so many little nuances to look at when it comes to retirement. That's why this article really grabbed me so much, because people they don't think about it. They think, okay, yeah, I'm going to die sometime. But when you really start to put numbers to it and you really say, man, I might only have 35 Christmases left. Well, that makes them a little more important. I may only have 5. I may only have 1. I may not have any. Making all of this, the point being, make sure you've got a plan. It's the thing that my listeners hear me preach week after week after week. Have a plan, and make sure it's a plan that you can count on with guarantees. If we're talking about income, make sure it's guaranteed lifetime income that can never be outlived, not if-come of, boy, we're going to take some money out of this account and sure hope we don't outlive it and sure hope the market doesn't crash and sure hope this and sure hope that. That's not what we want. We want to know that we know what's going to happen when you're gone with income. What's going to happen to your beneficiaries? What do you want to happen with your beneficiaries? Some people really care. Some people, I had clients in my office just earlier this morning, didn't care at all. Didn't care about their beneficiaries. Their kids already had plenty. The church was already going to get plenty. They weren't worried about beneficiaries. But for some people, it's a big deal. Some people, the same thing with income. Long-term care. I can add all kinds of things in here. The point being, here's the end of the story. Make sure you've got a plan. Make sure you've sat down with someone that's independent that can show you all of your options so you can come up with a holistic plan for everything. Make sure that all those gaps are covered. If you've got a gap in your income, you're going to need an income plan to take care of that. If you're worried about inflation in the future and possibly needing more income, then you need some income plans growing you can turn on in the future. If you're worried about long-term care, we need to get you into something that's got a long-term care benefit. If you're wanting to make sure you leave a certain inheritance to someone once you're gone, we need to make sure that's set up properly so it's going to happen. And we also, on top of all this, need to talk about taxes. So you and your beneficiaries and everybody are paying the least amount of taxes possible. So think about that. Don't try to put some numbers and really put them in front of you. I mean, if you're in your mid-70s listening to me right now, really, you've probably statistically got 10 to 20 years left. That's only 10 to 20 more Christmases. That's 10 to 20 more, and it could be less. Now, it could be more. But I'm just talking about statistically, you need to make sure whenever you're gone that you are prepared, you've got a proper plan, and you know that once you're gone, what you want to happen is what's going to happen. This is Tim Wood, your host of the Safe Money Retirement Show. I'll be right back after this informative message.
We all know that friend who's retired and still has to work. The one we've said we won't end up like, working till we die. But are you sure you're prepared? Hi, it's Glenn Beck, and I want to introduce you to Tim Wood. He is the owner of Safe Money Retirement. He's a certified financial fiduciary, and he makes sure that his clients aren't going to be that guy. Tim can help you know you'll have enough guaranteed income to cover you and your spouse for as long as either of you live and protect your money from the next market crash while it grows. Tim's helped hundreds of families know that they have a plan they can count on. You know I don't just trust anyone. Do your own homework with Tim Wood. Go to safemoneyretirement.com/Beck or call Tim. See how Tim can help protect what you've worked so hard for all those years. A safe retirement. Go to safemoneyretirement.com/Beck or call Tim and protect your money from the next market crash while it grows.
You're listening to the Safe Money Retirement Show with your host, Tim Wood.
Welcome back. I'm Tim Wood, your host of the Safe Money Retirement Show. I'm a capital preservation and strategic income planning specialist. In this week's case file, we're going to look at the story of Joe and Patty. Now, Joe and Patty came in, and like everybody's got their own individual, unique situation, and Joe and Patty were no different. Joe and Patty were in a situation where they had a lot of money saved up in, he had a 401A, which is a unique thing. Most people have 401Ks. He had a 401A. He also had several different types of accounts, IRAs and different things, and so did she. Between all of them, they actually had a significant amount of money, 7 figures plus, into the 7 figures. They had a good bit. But when we looked at the income they were going to get, so not assets, I'm talking about income, because again, y'all have heard me say, in retirement, happiness comes from income. Assets actually bring stress in retirement. So as we sat down, we looked at their expenses, we put all of that down, then we looked at where we wanted their income to be. We created a target. Here's where we want your income to be when y'all both retire. Well, we found that there was a gap there. We found that there was some missing stuff there. There was what they were going to get did not match where they needed to be. So we immediately needed to implement a plan. They were 2 years away from retirement. So what we did was we put them into a plan that guaranteed them in the 2 years, they actually needed $35,000 in income. So we got them into a plan that allowed for a single deposit now, for it to roll up at a guaranteed rate for 24 months. And then in 24 months, we were turning the income on that allowed both spouses then to get the $35,000 that they needed to cover that income gap. Now, there's one more piece to this. So that's great. That's step one. Absolutely need to do that. You need to make sure you've got enough income, especially right when you retire, because that's the go-go years. That's the years you're going to want to go do things. So we got to make sure we got enough then, for sure. But then they were also concerned about inflation and what happens if Social Security gets cut, and what if one of us needs to go in long-term care, and what if. So the second part of that was we got them into multiple, people have read my book, I call it ladder plans. They're smaller income plans that you can just let grow. So for example, instead of doing one more big income plan, we could do 4 smaller ones. Now, why would we want to do that? Let's say in 6 years after they retire, they wind up needing a little bit more money. Well, if you've got 4 plans, you can turn one on. It's grown at a guaranteed rate until then. You turn it on, and we already know what it's going to be in 8 years. So you can see all of that, but then you've still got 3 growing. And then a few years after that, you need some more, you turn another one on. These are guaranteed lifetime income streams. Once you turn them on, they're going to pay you both for as long as either one of you live. And if you've got them split up, you can just turn on what you need as inflation pops up, or as some sort of a long-term care situation happens, or as any of these things happen. If you've got these split up, then you can turn them on later. So that was the situation, and that was what we wound up doing for them. We got them one specific account that covered what they needed right when they both retired, which was about 2 years out. We got one plan for that. Then we put them into multiple other plans so they've got income they can turn on in the future if they ever need to. Now, how can this relate to you? Maybe you're in a similar situation. Maybe you have got loads of money. It doesn't matter how much it is, and that's different for everybody. For one person, 100,000 is a load, and for one person, 4.7 million is a load. Totally relative. Doesn't matter. However much you've got, what you've got to do is you've got to sit down and figure out, what are my expenses right now? What are your expenses? And you've got to project out 10, 20, 30 years. Do you anticipate those expenses staying about the same, going up because you're going to need to buy another house, buy another car, do something, or going down because you're going to pay off the mortgage or pay off the car or whatever? We need to figure out what that income level we need to get you at is. So that's step one. Get you a plan to get that income and make sure that you've got enough. Step two then would be, are you concerned about the potential cuts in Social Security? Are you concerned about the potential rise in inflation? If those kind of things concern you, then we look at doing multiple smaller plans so you've got some of these you can turn on in the future. And there are some other things that we may discuss for you in your specific situation. You might really be concerned about leaving a legacy when you're gone. Well, are you leaving it to a family member? We'll probably do that with life insurance. If you're leaving it to a charity, they're not going to pay taxes on your taxable things, so we're going to leave them taxable accounts and do the tax-free things to your kids. Those kind of things. We've got to sit down individually with you and come up with a plan. But that's how it's going to work for you, is sitting down with someone like me, coming up with an overall holistic plan, looking at your expenses, looking at where we think that's going to go, looking at all the different variables, and coming up with a solid, concrete plan that's going to allow you to have your own safe money retirement. Well, I'm about out of time, and I would like to thank you for listening to the Safe Money Retirement Show. If you're serious about your financial future, give me a call, and together we'll get your retirement savings on the fast track to accumulate while reducing exposure to market loss. Thanks for listening, and until next time at the same time, I'm Tim Wood, reminding you to stay safe so you can step into a secure future.
You've been listening to the Safe Money Retirement Show with your host, Tim Wood. Find out how to contractually guarantee that your income in retirement is guaranteed lifetime income and not if-come. Avoid any future market losses, plan for the potential of long-term care, and make wise planning choices so you can have the retirement that you deserve. Call us now for your free copy of Tim's best-selling book, Safe Money Retirement, Your Game Plan for Success. Our toll-free number is 800-913-SAFE. That's 800-913-7233. Or log on to our site at safemoneyretirement.com for more information or to request your free book. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you online at safemoneyretirement.com. The preceding information does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. Obviously, by contacting us now, you are only taking the first step toward protecting your retirement. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified licensed insurance professional. It's important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Interest and other guarantees in annuity contracts are subject to the claims-paying ability of the insurance carrier that issued the contract. The tax consequences of annuity income should be considered with the help of a licensed tax professional. Rates and returns mentioned on this program may vary based on state availability and are subject to change without notice.